good afternoon. This is the video class for today. We're going to talk about direct speech, which is it's a little less complex topic than the other one that we're gonna talk about in a few minutes later, which is reported speech. So for direct speech, I would like you to know that, well, this is a very important information in terms of direct speech is like a way in which a person reports literally what other person said, right? What other person uttered, what other person spoke about. So it is very important that you keep this in mind, because normally it is tend to be confused with the reported speech, and you should not confuse them. Let me explain you why. For example, we have this little politician, and he says this: I promise I will reduce taxes, I promise that all Colombians will have a better salary. So when I want to report directly what the person said, what the person spoke about, I talk about direct speech. So we have here an example of the direct speech. It says, the politician said, I promise I will reduce taxes, I promise that all Colombians will have a better salary. Now notice here two important elements. Number one, the quotes. The quotes are very important, very extremely important whenever we use direct speech, because it is quoting exactly the same words that the people or the person that you are quoting said. Exactly, it's literal, right? So it is not something that you made up, but you take the exact excerpt of the message that he wanted to send, right? So this is gonna be very important whenever we use the direct speech. Okay, now let's go to some elements here that I have taken from some website. I like this infographic very much because it allows me to share with you some stuff that well, let me just, I can't do this. Let me hide this for a bit, sorry. Okay, again, I don't know why. Oh, I can't do this. Okay, got it. No, okay, got it here. Okay, sorry. So it says, the first one, speech marks. Speech marks are used to indicate direct speech. They enclose the spoken words. Look, here we have quotes, and those quotes are marks that you have to take into consideration whenever you want to talk about direct speech, right? Exact words. You have to be very accurate using the exact words that the person said. Only use speech marks when quoting the exact spoken words. In direct speech does not need speech marks. Why? Because I am paraphrasing with indirect speech, but with direct speech I'm not paraphrasing, I'm saying literally what the person said. So you have to understand this difference very well. The third thing is the capital letters. Whenever you're starting a sentence, you have to use the capital letters so you don't get confused with the message that you want to transmit that was quoted directly. The fourth thing is punctuation. That is one of the most important things. You can use punctuation by either using a comma after the reporting verb, which in this case would be, let's say, when are we having lunch? Asked Toby. So this asked is the reporting verb. This is the reporting verb. It means that you do an action whenever you start speaking. The reporting verb can be determined by the circumstances of the speech. You can select any reporting verb, right? You can select state, for example, state, aseverar, right? Asegurar. You can say said, right? Dijo, right? You can say numbered, nombró, or enumeró, right? You can say I don't know, he quoted, citó, right? So there are a lot of reporting verbs that you can use whenever you're trying to do reported speech. But it is very important that you get all of these punctuation marks, and you should include them inside your reporting statement or your direct speech, right? So now there is punctuation inside speech marks, right? Which is like, for example, if it is a question, you have to put a question. If it is an exclamative sentence, then you have to put the correct one. So, get out, shouted the teacher, right? Shouted, this is another reporting verb. Gritó el profesor, right? Because that is the act of speech he's doing, right? Now the punctuation outside the speech, it can be a comma, right, or colon. When you use colon, you're citing exactly the words of the person who spoke them. Commas, you use a comma if the text continues of the direct speech. You also need to use a comma when introducing direct speech. For example, that's an iconic movie, quote, comma, quote, said Mike. Beth replied, comma, yes, I know, right? Normally it is used a comma. This is like the most common punctuation, but it is not a problem if you use colon. There is no difficulty on that. New paragraphs. You start a new paragraphs every time that there is a new speaker. So if we are quoting more than two, so for example, we use a hyphen normally. Do you like apples? Asked Will. I always wondered, right? Yes, why do you ask that? Replied Tomic, right? Well, just inventing names and stuff like that. So guys, I hope you have cleared these are like one of the most principal rules that we have on direct speech. Okay, let's continue with the presentation. We have this, for example, the politician declared, right? This is another reporting verb I'm using to just justify what he did in his speech. Colombians have to decide between Castro Chavismo or democracy so we don't become a second Venezuela. So this was some just example that I wanted to bring up here to this class. Okay, guys, this is a more graphic way in which we can look up at the direct speech. He said, comma, let's go to the cinema, full stop. Whenever you finish the quoting, you have to put a full stop indicating that everything is done. And inverted commas or quotes, which is the same thing, is just to quote, just to say exactly the same words, literally what the person said. Okay, okay guys, so this is it for this class. I'm gonna record a new one just in a minute, but I wanted you to have a very clear perspective, sorry, on the reported speech, sorry, on the direct speech. Later on I'm gonna start working on the reported speech, so please tune in. Thank you very much.